co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Rob Durant, and Rob and we're going to talk about artificial intelligence or AI. Rob's been doing a lot of work at the moment around AI in terms of what it is, the impact it can make, and he's been working with a number of sales teams, especially to try and start getting them to use AI. And he's got some really interesting thoughts and experience that he can share from that. So, Rob, where can people find you?
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me. People can find me probably easiest on LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com/in/Rob Durant. You can also find me at my company's website, flywheelresults.com, and all over the internet these days, it seems.
Yeah, you're pretty active on social media anyway, aren't you?
I try to be, yes. I love having conversations and meeting interesting people, and the way to do that is to start those conversations.
So you got into AI quite early on. I know that you were into it even before. Before I was a resistor for 6 months, and I know that you got into it, and you've been doing some interesting things. So when we had the preparation session, you talked about that most people were using AI, what you were calling it 1.0, which is
Right.
a way of creating magic words. So explain that to us.
Sure. I think it really stems from my understanding of computers and technology in general. I do not have this mystical aura or belief around computers and technology. I know computers for what they are for. And I was very fortunate. I've had a computer in my life for over 40 years now. My dad was encouraging me to learn how to program. So I was always peeking under the hood. I wasn't afraid of breaking things. But I also knew that computers, and I hope I don't live to regret this, but computers themselves, they're not very smart. What computers are great at are following directions and doing so very, very quickly. So fast forward to AI, we are told there's this magical application that took all of the information in the world and presents it at our fingertips. People think they can go to AI, input a question, press this magic button, and out comes the answer. And that's what I mean by AI 1.0. If you go to AI and you ask it a question, write me a sales email, it will do that. AI is built to serve. It is built to address the question that we ask it. It is built to serve. However, it's not worried about accuracy. I'm reminded of the character Prince Charming in the musical Into the Woods. I was born to be charming, not sincere. So that's what we're dealing with AI right now. You go to it with a question, it will give you an answer.
Yeah.
If you take that answer and run with it, you're using it in that 1.0 fashion.
And I think a lot of people have dived in, haven't they? And they've, I've asked ChatGPT for which Christmas presents to give to people and stuff like that.
Sure.
But interesting enough, it gave me the wrong answer.
Right.
Because
but it gave you an answer.
But it gave me an answer.
What it's programmed
that was
to
it. But because it doesn't know the individual, so I always thought to buy my nephew Lego, but he because of his family circumstance, he doesn't actually have anybody to sit there and build it with him. So that's why it was the wrong answer.
Makes sense. And we go to AI presuming it knows everything. It really doesn't, especially contextually. And that's where AI 2.0 comes into play.
Right.
If you go to AI and say, write me this sales email, it will do that. If you go to AI and provide it with context first, here's me, my situation, my style, my product, my solution. Here's my ideal target audience. Here's my target list. Here's all this information about the people I'm trying to reach. And then say, now help me develop a sales email. It will be better. It will still be a 1.0 solution, though. What you really want to do is have well, I don't know how else to put it, have a conversation with the AI.
So go backwards and forwards on the.
Exactly. Now that you've gotten that output, push back. Well, yes, this works and that doesn't, but I'm really thinking more of this and less of that, and go. And then you get more feedback and you give it more feedback and back and forth. And I hesitate to call it a conversation, but it really is a conversation. However, it's not a conversation with a robot. It's a conversation with yourself, if you really think about it. You are simultaneously acting as both the creator and the editor. And that's the paradigm shift for me when I started playing with AI and realizing it is not giving me what I want. It is not that magic button. It is not even accurate. Rather than bemoaning the lack of accuracy, I said, well, shame on me. It gave me exactly what I wanted, just like I've always known computers to do. They just do things faster. I just need to be better at interacting with it. And I don't mean better ChatGPT prompts. You'll see that all over the internet as well.
Yeah.
And yes, those can be helpful, especially because they help you construct the right context for what you need to do to get the right answer. But it's never a one and done. And I think that's probably the biggest misperception when it comes to AI in general, and most definitely AI specific to sales.
Because I have a significant birthday in 2025. And so I'm basically putting together so I asked ChatGPT to come up with a holiday program, which it did, but he didn't know that my partner is allergic to horses. So one of the things to do in the holiday was basically go horse riding. So I had to go back and say, please don't include horse riding. And then it actually said, well, we'll go mountain biking. And so give us an example of where you've been working with some sales teams and what they asked you for, and then what you did.
Sure. So I was working with a sales team, and they asked me for help in account mapping. The experience they had prior to that was very much that 1.0 experience. Okay, let's go to the AI and ask it for this output. I worked with the team and shared with them, here are some of the things that you can do. You can feed into the AI. Here's their website. Here's their annual report. Here's my white paper. Here's this and here's that. Putting more and more information into the system. And then having that back and forth exchange with the AI until it was able to better map that account process. At the end of the day, it probably took longer to go through this exercise, feeding the information into the AI and just mapping it back to the things that we wanted. But the results themselves were exponentially better. And that's what I try and really underline. I try and highlight with the sales teams that I'm working with. You are going to actually take more time to do this if you are doing it right. But that time that you spend will be more impactful. And at the end of the day, isn't that what you want?
Got a couple of comments. Jim, who's been on here, says junk in, junk out. Great reminder for people who are playing with these things for the first time. And Bob Britton, NLP and LMMs make AI accessible to masses. It's akin to giving the keys to a new Ferrari to a teen with a driver permit. Yes, very true, Bob.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny we call AI artificial intelligence. I contend there's very little intelligence about it right now. I prefer that AI as an amalgam of information. AI has collected everything out there on the internet and amalgamated it as compiled it into one large repository. Now, some of the information it's collected has been outstanding, and some of the information has just been outright wrong. But the majority of the information is just average, just the mere nature of it. So if you're going to AI, asking it for a response, and then accepting that first response, what you're getting by the very nature of AI is that average response. Now, for 50% of the salespeople out there, that's an improvement of where they are right now.
It's an improvement, yes.
But for 50%, it's also actually bringing them back.
Well, I think one of the things that was interesting for me with AI is some of the things that you've been doing, Rob, around. Just so people know, Rob runs a number of podcasts. One of them is the Digital Download, which we have, and he's the producer of that. And there's lots of tools out there where you can basically take the podcast, you pour it into the AI, and the AI comes up with a summary. And there's a number of tools that allow you to do that. It creates keywords for YouTube and stuff like that, which is time saving. But one of the things that Rob and one of the team did was that they fed the summary into ChatGPT and asked it to come up with a sarcastic newsreader. So Alex Abbott did, and I think he did it for about 3 months, but it provided some TikTok fodder in terms of saying, right, we're going to take this, summary and we're going to turn it into a 2-minute sarcastic newsreader. But the thing about it was, what we were doing was that we weren't just going to AI and saying, give me an answer. It was actually doing the AI and turning it into something that we wouldn't have had the time for, or the brain power to have produced without it.
Well, absolutely. We had fun with it in that regard. I contend that we would have the brain power, but we wouldn't necessarily have the time to do it. Because we came up with that concept to begin with. AI by itself did not say, hey, would you like a sarcastic 2-minute summary? We had to prompt it for that. And then with that prompt, we had to read through the prompt and give it feedback and still tweak it to our satisfaction. But we went to AI with a jumble of an idea. We didn't have the full fleshed out script. That jumble of an idea and then that back and forth exchange that we have, that for me solves what I refer to as the blank page conundrum. If I had sat down with a blank page, even having the script of the episode right in front of me, I don't know that I would have known where to start. But I knew I wanted something sarcastic, and I knew I wanted to highlight these points and whatever. So that's when I go to AI and say, here's my jumble of an idea. What you got? That's when it spits back at me what it's got. What it's got is terrible. Not because the AI was terrible, but because my instructions were. But now that I've got some feedback, I can process it again and think, oh no, I see where you went with this, but I meant that, and let's do it in this context, and so on and so forth. And you have that back and forth exchange. The idea there is accept that you're going to make mistakes. Accept that the AI is going to make mistakes because you've made mistakes in what you've instructed it. But accept that if you take the time to work with it back and forth, you'll end up with results significantly better than what you could have produced had you solely worked on composing and then worked on editing.
You made a comment in the preparation that we did for this, where you said, why do you think AI is going to work better than the sales process that you are using right now?
Right. So when people come to me and say, hey, we want to use AI in sales, I want them to start with why. I want them to figure out what they are looking for and why they believe AI is going to be better than what they're doing right now. It's not going to be faster. Well, it's not going to be faster if you do it in the way that I'm suggesting, that back and forth exchange. It will be faster if you just garbage in, garbage out. But if you're going to AI simply because you want faster, then you're probably going to it for the wrong reasons, or you're going to get results that aren't going to ultimately drive what you're looking for. But if instead you're going to it because you want better and you're willing to invest in it in terms of time and resources, then you will absolutely end up with better.
I think Igor is tagging Alexander there, and Bob is basically saying if you're looking for an easy button, it doesn't exist.
Sure, there is, Bob. There are plenty of people that will sell you the easy button. I also have a bridge in Brooklyn I could sell you, or some snake oil. There's always somebody looking for a shortcut. And if that's all you want, you don't need to work with me to figure out how to implement AI. There's plenty of resources out there. But if you're looking for improving your process, I would say just sit down with it first. Before you sit down with it, figure out what you are wanting to gain from it, your why, and figure out what you are going to provide it with. The resources, the white papers, the LinkedIn profiles. And no, LinkedIn being a walled garden, you can't actually point the AI to LinkedIn, say, look at them, but you can download a PDF of a profile and upload the PDF into the AI and say, this is who I'm trying to speak with. And different resources like that.
I was going to bring that up because sometimes you got to do a little bit of sneaky to get the result, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know that that's sneaky, but it's
an
English
term, Rob, for being a bit.
I think it translates over here as well, but I don't consider it as sneaky as it is resourceful.
Resourceful, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, and if I were to work on my own, I would have access to this. I'm not telling the AI to do anything that I'm not already doing. It's just a matter of providing the tool with all of the resources that I would have otherwise and working with that tool. Because at the end of the day, it is a tool.
Rob, thank you for coming on and sharing that. I've been wanting for you to come on for a number of weeks because I know that you've been doing some really great stuff with AI and certainly doing experimentation. So just so people know, Rob does work with us here at DLA Ignite, and he's been doing some amazing stuff picture a guy in a white coat, with test tubes and Bunsen burners and stuff like that. He is fantastic, and all of a sudden he'll come and say, "Look what I've created." So, Rob, thank you so much for coming on, and we really enjoyed the sarcastic newsreader for as long as it lasted. And let's hope we get some more things like that. So, where can people find you?
Absolutely. Again, the best place to find me is LinkedIn, Rob Durant. You can also find me at flywheelresults.com.
And
Tim,
thank you
so
to everybody, Bob, Jim, Igor, and Andrew, even though he was late.
Yes. Hi, Andrew.